China. Good evening, US. Welcome, everybody, to the 2025 China-US Anti-Cancer Summit. I am Lillian, Managing Director of US Chinese Anti-Cancer Association. It's a great pleasure to host you again as the anchor person tonight. And it is my privilege to introduce my co-host, Professor Ying Wang from Chinese Anti-Cancer Association. Professor Wang.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jens, for the introduction. Today is my privilege to co-chair the 2025 China-US Anti-Cancer Summit alongside with Dr. Yan, who is the Managing Director of USCACA. Today's symposium is jointly hosted by CACA, USCACA, and eChina Health. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the panelists for making the time and effort to come to this high-level academic event. Before we officially begin our program, please join me in welcoming Professor Daiming, President of China Anti-Cancer Association, President of World Association for Integrative Oncology, and the President of Asian Oncology Society, international member of the USA Academy of Medicine, to deliver the opening remarks. Professor Fine, the floor is yours.
So, dear chairs, Dr. Wang and Dr. Yin, the distinguished professors from US and China, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening. It is my great honor to deliver the opening remarks at the 2025 China-US Anti-Cancer Summit. On behalf of CACA and WIL, I would like to thank everyone for taking your time to join this high-level event. We were recently honored to welcome Professor Lillian Shun at the 2025 Chinese Congress on Holistic Integrative Oncology, CACA in Kunming, where we signed a 5-year memo to further strengthen collaboration between CACA and the American Association for Cancer Research, AACR. It is a great pleasure to meet the president of AACR in person in Kunming. The CACA has been growing significantly, containing over 860,000 members. Being the largest anti-cancer organization in China, CACA has been hosting over multiple thousands of academic exchange sessions throughout China yearly. To further promote and improve cancer care internationally, CACA has been working closely with the leading cancer organization worldwide. Since 2022, CACA has jointly held the International Anti-Cancer Summit successfully with countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, Europe, the Canada, and the France, Czech, the Australia, Latin America, Japan, Singapore, Africa, Egypt, and more. This event have drawn attentions from more than 420 million total viewers online from 72 countries across the globe. In the effort to unite the world on this fight against cancer, CACA has been hosting the Chinese Congress on Holistic Integrative Oncology, CACA, the largest cancer congress in China. This year, CACA just held the 2025 CACA in Kunming, This conference brought together over the 36,000 physical participants, including more than 5,000 domestic and international invited speakers. The live broadcast reached nearly 800 million viewers, the visits. During the Congress, CACA proudly introduced the guide, slogan, or advocations for the holistic integrative oncology, that is, from anti-cancer to tumor control and supportive care, from evidence-based medicine to evidence-informed medicine. Integrating these principles, we commit to all for cancer, for all cancers, and for cancer war. This philosophy transfer reflects what CACA has been steadily doing to increase cancer control, which aligns with today's goal. We are truly honored to have all the invited speakers to join in this international session and deliver outstanding academic presentations. Your participation brings valuable expertise and cutting-edge insights, elevating the significance of this event. We deeply appreciate your time, dedication, and contributions to advancing global knowledge in this field. May this summit continue to serve as the foundation for a lasting and impactful partnership between our two nations. I wish the 2025 China-US Anti-Cancer Summit a great success. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Fan. Your leadership in uniting the global community against the cancer is profoundly influential. At this moment, Dr. Yan is going to open up the keynote presentations for us today. Please go ahead, Dr. Yan.
Thank you, Professor Wang. So it is my greatest privilege and honor and a pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Dr. Lillian Su, a dear friend from Canada. She is the current president of American Association for Cancer Research, AACR, and she is going to speak on progress against cancer in 2025. Dr. Su.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. I want to thank Professor Wang, Professor Fan, and Dr. Li for the opportunity to speak today, and also echo Professor Fan's comment about the recent MOU signed by AACR and CACA at Kunming. It was a great pleasure to meet so many of you. I will speak for about 15 minutes in terms of progress against cancer in 2025. And before I begin, I'm going to have about 5 minutes discussing some of the activities from the AACR. This is the AACR mission. We are here to prevent and cure cancer through research, education, communication, collaboration, science, policy, and efficacy, as well as funding for cancer research. We obviously have many ways to share knowledge, including journals, our annual meeting that will happen in April 2026, and we also have multiple specific and general scientific conferences on multiple topics. Next year's meeting is April 17 to 22nd in San Diego. Our co-chairs are Paul Michel and Alice Shaw. And just want to highlight on the right side of the slide that the deadline for clinical trial submission is January 12th. So for those of you who have exciting clinical data, this is a time to consider submission to the AACR. We will also have an increased number of oral presentations this year in clinical trials, up to and over 50 oral presentations. And I think this is a very good opportunity to showcase many of the exciting work that is happening in China and elsewhere. There are also opportunities to publish concurrent manuscript at the same time for some of the high impact clinical trials with exciting compounds. And I think this is, again, an opportunity to showcase many of the exciting work that is being conducted in China. I also want to introduce a new meeting that is happening in July 2026 called the AACR D3 meeting, standing for Drug Discovery and Development. You can see the co-chairs here. And this will be a very different meeting to really highlight some new paradigms in oncology drug development, including really new ideas from biotech, pharma, academia, and also having speakers from regulatory agencies, venture capitalists, patient advocacy, and other new experts in, for example, AI. And we'll have different formats, including debates, different workshops, and I think this is going to be a very exciting meeting in Boston in July. And also want to highlight some of the activities in AACR, including AACR on campus, which is when we, as an AACR delegation, goes and visit different cities in the world, together with local presenters, local experts, to participants in each city. For example, this year I was in Asia with an AACR delegation, and there was another one as well in Malaysia. And I think all this has been a very exciting endeavor in terms of crosstalks and exchange of knowledge. Just to highlight the journals, as you can see, we have 10 journals welcoming submissions in terms of preclinical, basic, translational, population science, as well as clinical research. And we have in our yearly annual report, updating everyone on the cancer progress, including the one that was released in September this year on cancer progress report, which I will highlight in the next 10 minutes. And also the pediatric progress report that we just launched earlier on last week, and it's the first pediatric cancer progress report from the AACR. So in the remainder part of my talk, I want to highlight the progress in cancer research. Between 1999 to 2023, we have witnessed a 34% reduction in cancer death rate. And now compared to 1971, we have 18.6 million survivors compared to previously 3 million survivors, which is obviously a result of important progress in cancer research. Just in the year July 1st, 2024 to June 2025, we have, by the US FDA, approved 20 new drug cancer therapeutics, 8 of which that are previously approved have found new indications, 2 new devices, 2 minimally invasive tests for colorectal cancer screening, and multiple artificial intelligence-based tools for early cancer detection and diagnosis. And I think the momentum is really going to be important for us to sustain it. We know that there are, in 2025, 6 million survivors that have lived 15 years beyond their diagnosis of cancer. And we expect that in the year 2040, we will see that number increase to 10.4 million. And you look at some of these cancers that I have listed here: cervix cancer, colorectal cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer. A significant proportion of these cancers actually can be prevented because of cancer screening to remove early or pre-cancer lesions. And I think we continue to work hard to make sure that most, if not all, of these cancers are prevented and also averted before they have a chance to become invasive. And the progress report that was presented this year in 2025 is our 15-year anniversary. And in this slide, we showcase the differences between drugs that were approved 15 years ago and 2011, that's in the gray bubbles, versus in 2025 in the green bubbles. On the left-hand side of the slide, you can see previously, 15 years ago, we only had 1 immune checkpoint inhibitor. Now we have 15. We had no adoptive cell therapies. Now we have 9. We had no bispecific T-cell engagers. Now we have 9. On the right side of the slide, talking about the immune checkpoint inhibitors, it is now approved for 20 plus indications. versus only one indication in 2011. And we have 4 modes of action by these immune checkpoint inhibitors, for example, PD-L1, CTLA-4, LAG-3, etc. And over 56% of patients in the US population are eligible for immune checkpoint inhibitor therapy. This is significant progress. Listed on the next 2 slides are some of the drugs that were approved in the year of 2024 July to 2025 June that I highlighted earlier on. I will not have time to go through all of this. We have a concurrent publication in Cancer Discovery that I would like to direct you to if you're interested. But just to highlight a few drugs, for example, down in the bottom here, for vorasidenib, which is an IDH1/2 inhibitor, is approved for glioma, a type of brain tumor, which is obviously an exciting approval because there are very few drugs available for brain tumors in existence, and this is an important approval. On the next slide is some of the new immunotherapeutic drugs. I want to highlight the first one, which is a MAGE-A4-directed TCR T-cell therapy. This is the first TCR T-cell therapy that is approved for a solid tumor, for a rare type of solid tumor called synovial sarcoma, which affects a younger sector of our patient population. Again, very exciting. And in the bottom here, an anti-Claudin 18.2 monoclonal antibody that's approved for gastric cancer, a disease that's prevalent in the Asian Pacific region. Again, a very important approval. Now, looking at, again, between 2011 to 2025, in terms of USA approved immune checkpoint inhibitor, antibody drug conjugates, we previously had 1, now we had 13. Antibody drug conjugates, as we know, is a very important therapeutic that has really exploded in terms of its development over the last several years. These are targeted cytotoxins, really hoping to bring the cytotoxic agent very specifically to cancer cells and sparing the normal tissues. And as you can see that in that 13 approved antibody drug conjugates, there are 11 unique antibody drug conjugate targets. And this spans not just solid tumors, but also blood cancers for over 10 types of these types of cancers. Now, if you look at the progress in blood cancers, these are hematological cancers, including leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma. Over the past 10 years, over the past decade, we have 29 antibody drug conjugates that have been approved, including we have 29 new molecular targeted therapies approved, including 4 antibody drug conjugates. And we have 21 immunotherapeutics, of which 7 of them are CAR T-cell therapies and 8 of them are bispecific engagers, T-cell engagers or BiTEs. So again, significant progress, not just in solid tumors, but also in hematological malignancies. These are some of the approved CAR T-cell therapies by the FDA since 2017. You can see it spans leukemia, myeloma, as well as lymphoma. And if we look at the important mortality reduction in these blood cancers since 1991 to 2023, we have seen reductions in chronic myeloid leukemia. This is obviously the poster child of precision medicine, where the ability to target BCR-ABL has allowed us to cure many chronic myelogenous leukemia patients. But similarly, we've seen reduction in mortality from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the most common type of blood malignancies, as well as 31% reduction in mortality in multiple myeloma. In this year, we have seen these exciting drugs approved for blood cancers. The first menin-targeted therapy for patients with acute myeloid leukemia. We have a cytotoxic fusion protein that is approved for T-cell lymphoma, and also a new CAR T-cell therapy for acute lymphocytic leukemia. So I'm going to end up the last part of my talk really looking at the status of the cancer as we see it today. We still have challenges despite all these advances. On the right-hand side of this slide, we can see that the death tolls from these various cancers are still very high. We still have a significant burden from these common cancers. So clearly our job is not finished. And An important finding in the last several years is that we have seen an increase in number of patients who are young in their age, less than 50, and we've seen a rise in their cancer incidence as well as mortality. The most significant increase are really in the area of colon cancer, breast cancer, and these young onset cancers. It is unclear at this point to the precise reasons why. There have been many areas of research focusing on early onset cancers, including some of the habits such as smoking, alcohol, and also some of the more scientific discussions, for example, microbiome and other areas, including bacterial and other infections. So I think this area of research continues to be really important for us to understand why there is a rise in early onset cancers. You can see that many of the cancers that we are seeing in patients have modifiable risk factors, including smoking, obesity, and exposure to radiation, etc. And we need to continue to work to eliminate these cancers and these risks. Now, looking into the future, just a few words. Of course, we're interested in liquid biopsy. This is certainly an area that is becoming an explosive amount of data entering the clinic and in the research space. We can use liquid biopsy to detect cancers before it even has a chance to develop, predicting metastases, assessing for molecular or minimal residual disease after definitive treatment, and many other utilities. And I think we will see more of this coming in the next several years in terms of research in liquid biopsy. Not to forget AI, which is clearly an area we're seeing in a significant advances, not just in terms of machine learning, but we can also start seeing large language models where we can leverage a lot of data from electronic records, for example, to help us understand much more in terms of patterns of care and using real-world evidence to a more effective way, and also other really newer areas of AI, such as agentic AI and generative AI. So this is really just a summary in terms of technology, in terms of knowledge advances. We are seeing novel therapeutics, not just in the immune therapy and targeted space, a whole area called radiopharmaceuticals, where we're delivering radiation to very specific areas within the body where they express specific targets. Really is a new direction in radiation. But with all this, we need to continue to engage our patients. We can build on these progress and transform the care for all our patients everywhere. I just want to end, and this is just a QR code on the right for you to download the Cancer Progress Report that I mentioned that was released in September. We just released the pediatric one last week in the middle, and upcoming in spring 2026, we will be releasing the AACR Cancer Disparity Progress Report. I hope you have a chance to download and read some of these reports, which contain a significant amount of very valuable information for all of us in cancer care and cancer research. I want to thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to participate in the panel discussion later.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lillian Su. And congratulations on all the progress. I think the key takeaway is April 17th to 22nd next year, San Diego AACR annual meeting. We'll see you there. Now I'm going to turn this to Professor Wang to introduce our next speaker.
Okay, let's welcome our next speaker from the Chinese delegation, Professor Youlin Qiao, who is the professor of the School of Population Medicine and Public Health at Peking Youlin Medical College, researcher for the Department of Cancer Epidemiology at the Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences, and a member of WHO Global Expert Group on Cervical Cancer Elimination. Today, Professor Qiao will give a talk on enhanced health cooperation to accelerate elimination of cervical cancer in China. Please go ahead, Professor Qiao.
Thank you. Sandro, I need to share my slides.
We can see your slide, but not full screen.
Okay, that's good.
How about now? Can you see my
Okay.
slide?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
okay.
okay. Okay, thank you so much. And so this is my pleasure. Thank you, dear distinguished colleagues and friends and ladies and gentlemen. And good morning, afternoon, and evening. It is my good honor to participate in the first China-US Anti-Cancer Summit. Today, I would like to talk about enhanced health cooperation to accelerate the elimination of cervical cancer in China. And my talk has three parts. And the first one, it is the background of cervical cancer in China. And the second is development of new technology and strategy. And the third is accelerate the elimination of cervical cancer and in China. And these two maps shows you the cancer burden in China. China contributes a large number of the new cancer cases and deaths to the global disease burden as 1/4. According to GlobalCan 2022 report, and in 2022, approximately 151,000 cases of cervical cancer and 56,000 deaths occur in China, accounting for 23% and 16% of global new cases and deaths. These curves show the trends of cervical cancer age standardized incidence and mortality rates by urban and rural in China for past 20 years from year 2000 to 2020. So we can observe the turning point and the decrease during the year 2017 and 2019. This data published in Cancer Biology and Medicine 2 months ago by National Cancer Center of China. And we may ask why about the etiology. In 1976, Howard Druhausen proved the hypothesis that the human papillomavirus is the cause of cervical cancer. For this discovery, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in the Physiology of Medicine in 2008. The long-term persistent infection with high-risk HPV can cause cervical cancer. So cervical cancer is the only cancer which etiology is clearly preventable and treatable. This map shows you the pathway, cell from the normal to the pre-cancer to the cancer. Now, next is part 2, development of new technology and strategy. This table shows innovations in the products and the technologies of HPV prophylactic vaccines in China. Even 10 years late, and then global and 2006. And this table shows you can see the first and the products introduced into China is 2016. And comparison, the first vaccine introduced in US and the UK and Australia is 2006. So that's 10 years late. And but currently, and 3 imported and 4 domestic HPV vaccine have been approved for use in China. So we thank an MSD for their kindness to transfer VLP technology of HPC to China. This slide shows innovations in products and the technology of translation of cervical cancer screening technology in China. So we can observe that the technology and from the visual inspection and to the Pap-smear pap smears to the Sun PrEP and to the HPV and technologies. And this is another the study to support and collaborate and with France, India, and the US. The fundings come from the Bill and Gates and Foundation. That is a screening technology to advance rapid testing for cervical cancer prevention, utility, and parties. So this one the slide shows you the products and used in many developing countries. The products itself and get and WHO pre-qualifications and used in Africa and Latin America and the India and many countries. And supported by the Tencent and artificial intelligence electronic colposcopy assisted diagnosis system for cervical cancer has been on China FDA registration trial. It will help the low health resources area and other lower middle income countries. Okay, now is the last part. It's accelerated the elimination of cervical cancer and in China. The May 19, 2018, WHO Director General call to action to the elimination cervical cancer. That is immediately get support from UN agencies, NGOs, and academic institutions. And this slide show you, and in one of the regional office, and China belongs to, and as a whisper, and they get all of the member and support for join this international and efforts. The architecture to eliminate cervical cancers. So that is our vision is a world without the cervical cancer. The threshold is the whole country to reach less than 4 cases per 100,000 women years. So our 2030 targets, that is 90% of the girls should be vaccinated by HPV vaccine before 15 years old. 70% of the adult women accept and routine and screening, and 90% of the women and get the proper treatment. So finally, on November 17, 2020, in WHO headquarters Geneva, a world without cervical cancer announced. It is a historic milestone, marking the first time that 194 countries worldwide have a first commitment to eliminating a cancer in accordance with the resolution passed and that year's World Health Assembly. So this is slide tells about the cancer control knowledge into the action. China made the cancer control the plans and that and accept, and for the example, that is top down the planning and the processes. So and China and started the pilot study for cervical cancer screening. We select one rural area in the Taiwan Mountain and another the big city in the Shenzhen. So to do as example, this is 2 demonstration site year 2004, and after that we expanded the demonstration site and to the 6 and the counties, including one city, one county is in Xinjiang and in Hetian, and year 3 and the expanded to the whole and countries. At least the one demonstration site is one province. So the VA and VA screening demonstration site and location, this is map shows you. And from the year 2004, demonstration studies and to 2009, that is finally government-sponsored nationwide free cervical cancer screening in rural areas. And at that time, because the government has they do not have the whole funding for the whole nations, so they decide to do and in the rural area to help the most need of the population by pap smear or VIA in rural women, including 10 million women and ages 35 to 64 in 1,221 counties, then gradually expand to the 10 million per year in 1,437 counties. Finally, the program is expanded into the National Basic Public Health Service in 2019 for all rural and the urban women aged 35 to 64. But that is just the screening. And the progress of elimination of cervical cancer in all those cities, Inner Mongolia, that is the first city, and the 5 years early reached WHO 2020 targets, 90, 70, and 90 by the end of this year. So the innovation demonstration program and for the health city and the construction and promoting health China was launched in Youlin, Shandong province on September 17, 2021. Just 1 year later, after our dose and launch the vaccination combined with screening. So the local government and sponsor HPV vaccination and screening program expand from the pilot region and to non-pilot regions. And finally, in the September 11 this year, and our government made an announcement and marks the first and the time to introduce the HPV vaccine into the national immunization program. And the second is the first time in the cancer preventive vaccines has been included. And the last is the first bottom-up vaccine related program promoted from the local government to whole countries. So this is the map and shows you, and this is the map published from WHO. You can see China and now is joining the whole 158 and countries to integrate and screening and HPV vaccine to the national programs. The first anniversary of the global campaign to eliminate cervical cancer in November 17, 2021. So this is the girls and in Mongolia after they accepted and vaccines and they are joining. And finally, I want to make some summary. WHO global elimination of cervical cancer needs the active participation of all responsible members of countries. Second, evolution of cervical cancer, early detection and from oncology visual inspection to the molecular test is a fine example of how modern technology can change our clinical practice over 70 years. And the third is HPV vaccine and HPV and then nuclear assay test developed and produced in China, making it possible to eliminate cervical cancer in China and also in other developing countries, and needed to be expanded and applied. So finally, thank you for your listening. That's the end of my talk.
Thank you, Professor Qiao, for your insightful presentation. You have clearly outlined the summary of the current status, challenges, and the future directions for cervical cancer prevention and control in China. Dr. Yan, please take the stage to introduce our next speaker, please.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Julia Gurala. And Julia is the Chief Medical Officer of American Society of Clinical Oncology, ASCO. And she is also a professor of medicine at WashU. She's going to speak on clinical oncology progress in the United States. Dr. Glauer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yan. Hello, I'm Julie Graylow, and as you've heard, I'm the Chief Medical Officer at the American Society of Clinical Oncology, also known as ASCO. I'm filling in today for Dr. Eric Small, the president of ASCO, who was scheduled to be giving this talk. He has had a death in the family and is unable to join us and sends his sincere regrets. It's an honor to be speaking to you. Thank you very much to the China Anti-Cancer Association and all involved in organizing this important China-US Anti-Cancer Summit. Today, I'm going to highlight 4 transformative studies that were presented at the 2025 ASCO annual meeting that have potential to change cancer care around the world. But first, I'll start off by talking a little bit about ASCO. Oops. ASCO is a global network of oncology professionals whose mission is to conquer cancer through research, education, and advancing high-quality care for patients. We have more than 50,000 members in more than 170 countries. We represent specialists in every cancer type, every treatment approach, every practice setting, and about 40% of our members are outside of the United States. I'm proud to say that ASCO works closely with the Asia-Pacific oncology community in a number of ways. For example, we're grateful to have ongoing collaborations with the Chinese Anti-Cancer Association, as well as Cisco, on developing joint scientific sessions, collaborations at the ASCO annual meeting and our ASCO breakthrough meeting, and mentorship programs. ASCO offers regional programming through our Asia-Pacific Regional Council, which advises ASCO on the oncology needs in the region and on partnership opportunities, among other topics. We're grateful for the participation of Professor Jun Ma, who represents China on the council. Through our regional councils, we conduct global leadership development programs, including one specific to the Asia-Pacific region, which is now well into its 2nd cohort. The program offers virtual learning sessions, small group projects, and an in-person workshop. An Asia-Pacific International Clinical Research Scholars Program is planned for 2026, with applications just having closed. This year-long program includes training in the design and conduct of clinical research, along with paired mentorship, and is designed for clinicians with compelling research ideas to enhance investigation skills and ultimately improve care within their communities. Lastly, Conquer Cancer, the ASCO Foundation, has a robust grants and awards program that's awarded nearly $200 million in research funding to 88 countries, with the focus on improving cancer care and accelerating breakthroughs in clinical and translational research. Today, I'm going to discuss the effects of 4 studies that were presented at the 2025 ASCO annual meeting this past June that span a few themes: the continued promise of immunotherapy, advances in diagnostics, and precision and targeted medicine. These studies address gastric, breast, and non-small cell lung cancers. And the transformative potential of these studies represents progress for all disease areas and truly energizes me as an oncologist. To begin, I'll highlight 2 studies evaluating antibody-drug conjugates in treating gastric and breast cancers specifically. First, let's take a look at the phase 3 Destiny Gastric 04 study. What it showed was that giving trastuzumab deruxtecan, an antibody-drug conjugate targeted to HER2 in the 2nd-line setting, helped patients with advanced HER2-positive gastric cancer or cancer of the gastroesophageal junction that had already grown during initial treatment and it helped them live about 3 months longer compared with standard of care. After a median follow-up of almost 17 months, the trastuzumab deruxtecan group, after a median follow-up of 16.8 months for the trastuzumab deruxtecan group and 14.4 months for the standard treatment group, the median overall survival was 14.7 months for patient who received the antibody drug conjugate and 11.4 months for patients who received the standard of care, which was paclitaxel and ramucirumab. 2 important notes. This was the first phase 3 trial to directly compare trastuzumab deruxtecan against paclitaxel with ramucirumab, an antibody to VEGF, in the second-line setting for these patients. This trial provides phase 3 data to reinforce the survival benefit of trastuzumab deruxtecan in this setting. In the past, there were no HER2-directed medicines demonstrating a survival benefit in the second-line setting for gastric cancer. Now let's take a look at a breast cancer study that demonstrated the progress of pairing an antibody drug conjugate to HER2 with a classic monoclonal antibody to HER2 compared to the standard of care. The phase 3 Breast09 study found that first-line treatment with trastuzumab deruxtecan, when combined with pertuzumab, delayed cancer growth for longer than THP, that's paclitaxel, trastuzumab, and pertuzumab, which is the current standard of care for patients with HER2-positive metastatic breast cancer. The median progression-free survival was 40.7 months in the trastuzumab deruxtecan plus pertuzumab arm versus 26.9 months in the THP group. Trastuzumab deruxtecan with pertuzumab reduced the risk of disease progression or death by 44% for these patients. While HER2-targeted therapies have improved outcome for HER2-positive metastatic breast cancer, most patients experience disease progression within 2 years of first-line treatment. So this trial represents an improvement in further delaying disease progression, which is meaningful for patients. Now let's talk about an interesting trial looking at advances in diagnostics. The phase 3 double-blind ctDNA-guided SERENA-6 trial found that switching first-line treatment from an aromatase inhibitor to a selective estrogen receptor degrader, camizestrant, when an ESR1 mutation was detected using ctDNA analysis and before disease progression was evident by classic imaging or other methods of detection, this switch could slow cancer growth for patients with hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative advanced breast cancer. In both arms, a CDK4/6 inhibitor, which was given, was continued without switch. Although testing for the development of estrogen receptor or ESR1 mutations is common in patients who have received an aromatase inhibitor plus a CDK4/6 inhibitor, this testing up until present has not typically been done until the cancer has already started progressing while on the aromatase inhibitor. In the SERENA-6 trial, the median progression-free survival was 16 months for those who made the early switch to camizestrant based on the ctDNA analysis versus 9.2 months for those who continued treatments with the aromatase inhibitor until classic evidence of disease progression. Patients in the camizestrant group maintained their quality of life longer with the switch than those who continued the aromatase inhibitor. And this trial highlights the concept of testing for the evolution of resistance, in this case, the development of an ESR1 mutation before classic evidence of progression by scans or other means. By detecting these mutations as they emerge using ctDNA analysis and switching treatments that's designed to overcome that resistance, patients can benefit. And finally, one last presentation from our annual meeting, and this is in the area of precision and targeted medicine as well. So this was a very interesting trial, an international and multi-center prospective trial that looked at a new 14-gene molecular assay to see if it could identify patients with early-stage non-small cell lung cancer who could benefit from the addition of adjuvant chemotherapy after surgery. In this trial, we saw that using this 14-gene molecular assay to place patients in an intermediate and a high risk, and then getting chemotherapy based on that led to a longer time until cancer recurrence or death. So 421 patients with stage 1A to 2A non-squamous, non-small cell lung cancer who had surgical resection had their tumors tested with this 14-gene molecular assay. Only those categorized as intermediate or high risk were eligible for randomization to receive chemo or not. The low risk group was not randomized. 194 intermediate and high risk patients were evaluated. Of those, 87 were randomly assigned to receive adjuvant chemo, and 107 were randomly assigned to observation. After 2 years, there was a significant difference in disease-free survival between the two groups. Those who received the adjuvant chemotherapy had a 78% lower risk of cancer recurrence compared to the observation group. At the time of an interim analysis, the Data Safety Monitoring Board recommended that the clinical trial stop enrolling new patients because of the success of the assay in determining a group of early-stage non-small cell lung cancer patients who could benefit from the addition of chemotherapy. So this concludes my ASCO research highlights. Before closing, I'd like to highlight the 2026 ASCO annual meeting taking place May 29th to June 2nd in Chicago, Illinois, and online. The program will feature more than 200 sessions complementing Dr. Small's presidential theme, the theme which is the science and the practice of translation, improving cancer outcomes worldwide. This theme emphasizes moving breakthroughs from the lab to the clinic and from the clinic to communities worldwide. The call for abstracts will close January 27th, 2026. And I'm also delighted to share the news that the next ASCO Breakthrough meeting, which is targeted to the Asia Pacific community, will be held in Singapore, June 25th to 27th, 2026. ASCO is excited to return to the region and provide a forum for novel research and multidisciplinary perspectives on the newest scientific findings, clinical and technology advances, and treatment approaches. The call for abstracts is now open through February 24th, 2026, and I encourage you to consider submitting your research and attending the meeting. This concludes my remarks. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I look forward to the discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Julia Guo. Really congratulations in terms of how many clinical progresses you highlighted. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time for the discussion. And I also want to highlight next year's ASCO annual meeting, May 29th to June 2nd, Chicago. We'll see you there too. Now I'm going to turn this over to Professor Wang to introduce our next keynote speaker.
Our next speaker is Professor Lu Shun. Professor Lu is a professor of Shanghai Chest Hospital, School of Medicine, Shanghai Jiao Tong University, and the chair of Immunotherapy Committee of CACA. Today, Professor Lu will share his insights on the topic, Early Drug Development of Lung Cancer in China, Learnings from the Past and Solutions for the Future. Professor Lu, please.
Good morning and good evening, dear colleague. First of all, let me share my slide. And thanks for the Professor Fan and Professor Su to allow me to present the drug development of lung cancer in China, learning from the past and a solution for the future. Here's my disclosure. As you know that lung cancer is one of the most common cancer in terms of the incidence and the modality. The incidence rate of lung cancer in China significantly exceed that of other developed countries, and the modality remained persistent high. But East Asia, including China, will have a very unique gene profile with a high incidence for EGFR sensitive mutation. So this really gives us the challenge as well as the opportunity. In terms of the clinical landscape, the majority of cases actually diagnosis as a later stage, and around 60 patients experience recurrence of metastasis post-operative. So higher tumor heterogeneity contribute to poor treatment effects. With the really unmet need the innovation therapeutic approaches, sensitive early warning modalities, and effective treatment modality. So during the past 10 years, actually, we followed the global international pathway breakthrough in lung cancer treatment during the precision medicine times, advancing the precision oncology for lung cancer. So we already identified a couple of the different driven genes. Even before the pandemic, actually in the United States, you have already approved 6 genes has some targeted drug. At that time, in China, only 3 genes that EGFR all kind of rose one will have the drug. But right now, nearly all the target we develop Chinese domestic compound, and really, patients have accept all these targeted drug, and they improve the China patient efficacy. So let me just show the cases actually in EGFR mutant patient right now, the median OS around 4 years. And then in terms of all translocation patient, median survival is around 90 months. And all the rare mutation just follow this common mutation strategy. We develop the drug and treat the patient. Then if the resistance, we do the second biopsy and explore the drug resistance mechanism and develop the new drug and try to overcome this resistance. So actually, in this like the 10 years, we established a new model and a new standard for diagnosis and treatment. We already do like the 16 national class new drug and 28 indication. Really solve the drug accessibility for Chinese peoples. All these treatments, actually, all these drug or modality has approved in China by China NMPA, as well as right now right into the China CACA guideline. So let me just show the case by case. First is the small molecular. We do the global, second global EGFR third generation TKI, Elimination. At that time, because osimertinib is already approved, but it's not covered by the reimbursement. So in China, we developed our domestic third generation TKI. Then eventually we get quite a similar results with osimertinib in the randomized phase 3 study. We compare with elimination versus first generation TKI gefitinib. Actually, the hazard ratio 0.46. It's nearly identical with osimertinib, which published JCO. And also in terms of the MET TKI, during the 2010 or to 2012, actually 3 MET TKI, capatinib, topoteninib, as well as savolitinib has been developed and also finished the phase 1. But we tried to pick choice the biomarker at that time using the MET overexpression or amplification. Some patient has a quite good response, but majority of patient no response. But that in AACR actually 2016, some cases show that the MET exon 14 skipping mutation at that time treated using the quizartinib. Actually, quizartinib is a multi-target, but including the MET exon 14, they get a dramatic response. So this gives us some suggestion that maybe MET exon 14 skipping mutation is a real target for MET TKI. Then we go back, we do some translation research, as well as right now we do the phase 1 study. We show that the savolitinib is quite good response into the MET exon 14 mutation. Then we do the registration trials. This is a phase 2 single arm study, but we get a quite good response. The object response around 64% and the PFS nearly 14 months. Actually, based on our study and China NMPA approved savolitinib in China with MET exon 14 skipping mutation. This actually, earlier than other targeted TKI, including global TKI, such as the tepotinib and carboplatin, which improve the drug accessibility for Chinese patients. And also, we go back to the MET amplification or overexpression, go back to the global phase 1 study, Ultra study, as well as the phase 2 study, the Savannah study. Actually, we found that the data cutoff actually for MET, positive, it should be like the tumor cell more than 90% IHC3 plus or FISH more than 10 plus. Then you can get quite good results. So the first, we do the randomized phase 3 study. This is the first global randomized phase 3 study. In the TKI, EGFR TKI resistant patient, we compare with the continuous osimertinib plus savolitinib versus standard of care, chemo. Actually, this is such study is the first randomized open-label multi-center phase 3 study conducted across the 68 centers in China. It compared savolitinib plus osimertinib versus platinum-based chemotherapy in metastasis EGFR mutant drug TKI resistant patients. Actually, totally more than 200 patients enrolled this study. We get the results published in ASCO this year, and in the ITT population, actually median PFS around 8.2 months versus standard of care 4.6 months, hazard ratio 0.34. Actually, based on this, also the response is higher than the standard of care. The SAVA plus OSI object response 58% versus chemo 34%. So and also disease control rate actually quite similar, but the duration of treatment is much higher, 8.4 months versus standard of care 3.2 months. So based on this, actually, which already published, accepted by the Lancet, and also China FDA approved this approach, and actually CACA guideline already revised. So based on the G12C, KRAS G12C, we know that globally we have two G12C inhibitors, adagrasib and cetuximab, but it's not cannot use it in China right now. It's not a finished registration trial in China. So we developed a China global G12C inhibitor. One is we call the grasol We do the phase 1 and as well as the phase 2 registration trials. Actually, we get a confirmed IRC object response around 52%, and the disease control rate 88.6%. And based on this, actually, China FDA already approved this drug in China, and now actually it's also covered by reimbursement. And also, right now, G12D, globally no drug approved. We also do the Chinese local G12C inhibitor. We call it GFH367. We presented the phase 1 data in ASCO this year, and actually for G12C, late line patient get a response around 38%. And in terms of the non-small cell lung cancer cohort, we get a response of 42% and 52% object response in pancreatic cancer. Right now, the registration trials is already launched. Hopefully, we do the first global G12D inhibitor approved in China. And in terms of immune therapy, a lot of the fast follow PD-L1 in China, we do at least 2 phase 1 as well as phase 3. One is the singletomab, another is a B1 compound, trastuzumab. Actually, these 2 compounds is already approved by the China FDA and also writing the in the CACA guideline. And I should emphasize one is singletomab. Actually, we do the patient is EGFR mutant after TKI resistance. We're using the 4-drug combination, PD-1 plus chemo plus bevacizumab. Actually, we get the quite good results, then confirmed by the biospecific AK112 studies also confirmed this and approved in China. we also do some breakthrough. This year in ASCO meeting, we published AK112. This is the biospecific PD-1 VEGF. Previously in squamous, we just worry about the bleeding or hemorrhage, because of the bevacizumab toxicity. But the biospecific is different. So we at the beginning we do the phase 1 as well as the phase 2. We found it very safe. So then we do the randomized phase 3 study for the squamous non-small cell lung cancer. We compare the biospecific plus chemo versus trastuzumab PD-1 plus chemo. This is the Harmony 6 study, which are presenting in ASCO this year. And we found that in terms of the PFS, actually, the biospecific median PFS around 11.1 months versus PD-1 6.9 months, hazard ratio 0.6. And also the PFS benefit across PD-1 expression subgroup, regardless of PD-1 expression. So we present in ESMO as well as spontaneous publication in Lancet this year. So we also developed some biospecific. This is the Innovent biospecific RBI363. This is PD-1 IL alpha BS. We finished the phase 1 study and also published the phase 2 data in ESMO this year, or in ASCO this year. We found that the object response around 40% response and the median PFS around 9 months. So based on this, actually, we already launched the global phase 3 study, including the United States site as well as the European site. And the third is the ADC, antibody drug conjugate. As previous speaker already mentioned, Dustin Bristol study globally. We do the China domestic HER2 ADC in lung cancer. We finished the dose escalation as well as the dose expansion. Actually, finally, we do the single arm phase 2 study in HER2 mutation non-small cell lung cancer second line. We found that the response around 73.4% and a median PFS around 11 months. So based on this, actually, this drug is already approved by China, and right now we do the global study. And then we also developed the new target, new ADC. This is the EGFR ADC. We finished the phase 1 dose escalation, and we present in AACR this year. We found that generally after the 224 patients, actually the object response around 30%, disease control rate around 85.3%. And in terms of the RP2D dose, 4.8 milligram, actually object response around 38, and the DCR around 83%. So based on this, actually the randomized phase 3 study in EGFR mutant after the TKI, this ADC versus the standard of care is still ongoing. Patient enrollment will be finished next month. Hopefully, at the end of next year, we will get some results. So I will also a little bit discuss about T-cell engagement. You know that Amgen compound in small cell lung cancer is tarlatamab is already approved. So in this year, in ASCO meeting, we'll present China domestic TRAP-specific T-cell engagement with 2 dose, high dose versus low dose. Actually, both two cohort, actually, the response around 60%. And just last week in ESMO Asia, we updated the median PFS in the high dose around 7 months, but a lower dose is even longer, not reached. So based on this, actually, we will already choose the RP2D dose is a low dose, 10 milligram to 2 weeks. Right now, the phase 3 study is still ongoing. Hopefully, next year we will get the results. Finally, I will a little bit discuss about the CAR-T in lung cancer. We already developed the GPC3 CAR-T. We finished the dose, first dose. Right now, we escalate the second dose. We already get some partial response patients. So hopefully, in this solid CAR-T therapy, will get some signal for lung cancer patients. So finally, actually, I want to say that follow the precision therapy under the guidance of the translation medicine. We integrate clinical, preclinical, and biomedical database within the academic community, partner with the industry, do the scientific translational therapy into clinical practice, and collaboration with multiple omics research, and try to get the drug approved as quickly as possible and try to revise the CACA guideline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lu, for your informative presentation. Your talk provided a profound and comprehensive overview of the progress and the challenges in lung cancer drug development in China. Thank you again. Dr. Yan, please introduce our final speaker of this session.
Great. Our final but not least, the keynote speaker is Dr. Christina Annunziata, and she is Senior Vice President of Actuarial Discovery Science from American Cancer Society. Christina is going to discuss discovery and creative innovation transforming cancer research and patient care at the American Cancer Society. Christina.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much for having me at this meeting. I'm very excited to learn about all the exciting research that's going on in China and by my colleagues in the other United States institutions. So I will just start here by talking about our discovery and creative innovation that's transforming cancer research and patient care at the American Cancer Society. But let me go to just, again, some background on the American Cancer Society, similar to what my colleagues have presented. So the American Cancer Society actually has an integrated approach to combating cancer. We have our discovery, which I'll spend my most time talking about, but we also have an advocacy department, which lobbies government and advocates for legislation to support cancer patients in the United States. And we have a very robust patient support department, which targets and impacts over 20,000 communities in the United States. And I'll talk about how we've integrated those into our research as well. So just one brief slide on our Cancer Action Network. This is our advocacy arm of the American Cancer Society, and really promotes government policies that are based on evidence-based information. We have 643 advocates who visited offices during our Leadership Summit and Lobby Day, which we hold every fall. We visited every Senate office, 384 House offices, 122 member level meetings, and 173 senior staff level meetings. So this is a really impactful moment. Our patient support pillar provides direct patient support services throughout the country. And as I mentioned, we've targeted over 5,000 communities, and we've done activities such as prevention, cancer screening, lodging for patients who need it during their therapy, transportation to necessary appointments, patient navigation, both in the clinical realm and in the clinical trials research realm, survivorship services, and also patient education. So as I mentioned, I'm going to speak mostly about our discovery. And in our discovery department, we have 5 main priorities and program goals. First, to identify emerging patterns to accelerate progress across the cancer continuum. Second, to accelerate discoveries in cancer mechanisms. Third, to improve cancer patient and survivorship outcomes. Fourth, to decrease cancer suffering and cancer deaths through research to improve prevention, screening, and early detection. And finally, to invest in the next generation of scientists to accelerate discovery of tomorrow's medicines. We currently have an expansive grants program. We currently have 894 active grants for a total of $524 million in active research funding currently in the United States. This covers 36 grant mechanisms at 213 institutions across the United States. And as you can see, we cover all areas of cancer research. These are our standard grant mechanisms. These are kind of our bread and butter. We have our Research Scholar Grant, which is for our sort of mid-career investigators. We have our Clinical Scientist Development Program, which is looking for mentored research by clinician scientists. We have a postdoctoral fellowship, which is obviously for postdoctoral fellows. We also have some additional grant mechanisms. One is called the Institutional Research Grant. That's to provide pilot programs to individuals that are starting new projects. Similarly, we have our Discovery Boost Grant, which is to individuals instead of institutions, that is providing substantial funds for new pilot projects that are novel directions. We have our Mission Boost Grant, which are clinical translational grants. So stage 1 is the translational part, bench to bedside, and then Mission Boost 2, stage 2 is the actual early phase clinical trial. And then we have our ACS Professor, which is our most prestigious award to established investigators. I just wanted to highlight that we've had a dramatic increase in grants in grant applications over the last several cycles. You can see that in light blue is the total number of applications that were submitted. In dark blue is the number that were rated outstanding, and in red is the number that we've able to fund. So our summer cycle is just finishing up right now, so we don't have those last few numbers. But you can see in the summer cycle, we had a dramatic increase in our applications to our grants program. We also have several collaborations with other foundations and institutions to increase our ability to be able to give grants and to focus our research that we support. So we have a collaboration with the Sam Waxman Foundation and the Mark Foundation for Aging and Cancer Research. We have a collaboration with Cancer Research UK for our cancer prevention research and a cancer prevention conference. We have a collaboration with Doris Duke Foundation for rural health, for Flatiron for electronic data capture, with Yosemite for innovative use of AI in healthcare delivery and medical research. We've partners with the Dolphins Football Foundation to promote health equity research in Southern Florida. We're partnering with the RUNX-1 research program to look at molecularly driven cancer prevention, with ASTRO, which is American Society of Radiation Oncology, to help develop clinician scientists in radiation oncology, and then the Lisa Dean Mosley Foundation to develop a cancer stem cell research consortium. We also have a Center for Innovation in Cancer Research Training, and this is focused on our very early investigators or early people trying to increase the pipeline of individuals in the cancer research realm. So we have a high school summer program, we have college internships, we have post-baccalaureate fellowships, and we have also institutional development grants to promote research in areas that typically do not have a lot of cancer research and have underserved, underrepresented minorities. We also have cancer prevention studies, and this is part of our intramural research program. So what I was just speaking about previously was all our extramural program where we're giving out funds. We also have a very robust intramural research program where we have done population science studies, one of which, or several of which have been the cancer prevention studies, CPS 1, 2, and 3, all of which are still ongoing, and have collected samples from up to 1 million participants in each of these studies. So these are mainly looking for collecting biospecimens and surveys to look at look for areas of cancer risk, increased biomarkers of risk in particular populations. One in particular that we've just launched is the Voices of Black Women, and here we are enrolling Black women between the ages of 25 and 55 with no previous history of cancer except for basal or squamous cell skin cancer. And this is really to look for specific causes and risk factors of cancer in Black women, which, as we know from epidemiologic studies, are more prone to get certain types of cancers and more likely to die from cancers at a higher rate than other populations in the United States. So this will be a very, very important study. We have in our intramural program also the Center for Early Detection Science. And this is where that sets our cancer screening guidelines mainly. And as you know, we have cancer screening guidelines for lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, cervical cancer, and breast cancer. And we just recently this week released updated guidelines on our cervical cancer screening, which includes the at-home testing. The most recent thing that we're working on, an up-and-coming guideline, will be the use of multi-cancer early detection tests, but that's something that's ongoing research. We also, in the last part of our intramural research is our cancer faction figures department, and this is the department that releases all the national and international global statistics on cancer. And you heard some of those statistics quoted by Dr. Lillian Su earlier in the session. I wanted to focus a little bit on our prostate cancer as a highlight for the research that we're doing both intramurally and funding extramurally. So our prostate cancer statistics that we released in 2025 showed that the incidence of prostate cancer has been increasing slightly over the last several years since 2014. So it's been increasing by 3% per year since 2014, after declining rapidly between 2007 and 2014. The trends that we've noticed in prostate cancer has been that in the localized stage, there's been a 2.4% increase. In the regional stage, which is a little bit more advanced, has been a 4.7% increase. And then unfortunately in the distant stage, which is the most deadly form of cancer, the deadly stage of the prostate cancer, we've seen a 5 to 7% increase per year since 2011. And this is present in all men. Unfortunately, we've seen that this incidence has increased by the most dramatic amounts in people of color. So in the Black community, particularly, both in incidence and in mortality, and then also in the American Indian and Alaskan Native population, the mortality has increased. And these are areas that need additional research. So for that reason, we established the Impact Professorships in 2024. We awarded 2 Impact Professors Awards, one to Dr. Daniel George and one to Christopher Hyman. And this is to increase our research and our investment in prostate cancer research because of these trends that our intramural research department has uncovered. We also know that there's lack of diversity in prostate cancer clinical trials, and the populations that are affected the most by the mortality increase, which is the Black population, is very underrepresented in our clinical trials. We looked at what are the barriers to enrolling in clinical trials, and for the most part, it's not that patients say no to clinical trials. It's mainly that 85% or 77% of people who don't enroll in clinical trials are because there's no trial available for them for which they're eligible. And these are some more summaries of our studies of the barriers to acceptance. 55% of patients said that they would accept. However, as I mentioned, there was no clinical trial available for 70% of those. And of the people who say no, there's really a mix of really kind of logistical costs, logistical reasons such as cost, time, and transportation, in addition to the philosophical mistrust reasons. And as I mentioned, again, I just wanted to highlight the burden of prostate cancer is in the Black population, but also in the American Indian and Alaska Native populations, where we see a higher incidence and mortality. So because of these findings, we actually launched a new initiative called our Expanding Clinical Trials in the Prostate Cancer Community. These are grants that are supporting infrastructure, and what we do is we give $200,000 direct costs to these institutions for a period of 2 years, with the goal of enrolling patients on clinical trials, and specifically Black patients and patients of color in the clinical trials. So we've really looked for sites that have the population that we would like to enroll and that have some experience in clinical trial enrollment, clinical trials administration. However, they don't have a large enough infrastructure to enroll and to even offer the trials, to even open the trials at their site and offer them to all the patients that might be potentially eligible. We started with these 4 sites: Northwestern in Chicago, these are affiliated with the universities, and these are mainly the community clinics that are outside, in the communities outside of these universities. So one is in Chicago at Northwest, associated with Northwestern. Another one is in Louisiana, associated with Ochsner Clinic. We have a second one actually in a different part of Louisiana with Our Lady of the Lake Hospital, and then one in Dallas, Texas, affiliated with UT Southwestern. So these are very exciting. We really intend to increase enrollment of our most vulnerable patients on clinical trials. I'd just like to sum up with some highlights of how artificial intelligence is being incorporated into our own research and also into the research that we're funding. I think we're going to talk about this potentially a little bit more in the discussion, but there are really 4 main areas where artificial intelligence can have an impact in cancer research. First is preclinical target and drug discovery, also in imaging and pathologic stratifications, in improving clinical care, and in potentially reducing healthcare disparities and enhancing accessibility, quality care. So I want to use prostate cancer again as an example. We have funded research in the area of AI-facilitated quantification of the metastatic burden using imaging techniques. And this really is enhancing clinical decision-making, lowering documentation burden, and really improving early detection and paving the way for personalized treatments. We also have funded this Artera AI model, which is advancing personalized medicine in prostate cancer treatment. And this is an AI-enabled prognostic test, which is now recommended as part of the NCCN guidelines for prostate cancer. So those are 2 highlights of AI that I think we could expand on a little bit more in the discussion. So just to wrap up, because I know we're nearing the end of our session. Our main vision is to end cancer as we know it for everyone. And we really would love to integrate research with patient and caregiver-centered strategies and improve our reach to all patients throughout the country. So with that, I actually just want to highlight one cancer prevention conference that we are hosting in Atlanta, Georgia in June of 2026. So that is co-hosting in collaboration with Cancer Research UK. And then highlight our four main journals. Our flagship journal is Cancer. We also have CA, which is where we publish all of our cancer facts and figures. We have Cancer Cytopathology, and then we have a new journal that we are about to launch, which is ACS Pediatric Oncology. And with that, I will wrap up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christina, for your extensive coverage of the mission and activities by ACS. Now I'm very excited. We're actually moving to the panel discussion. So I'm really happy to have all the speakers plus Professor Wang and Professor Fan to join the panel. I think let's just fire away. So the first question I would like to ask our panelists is really on the reflection of what Dr. Qiao mentioned, right? So as recent as 10 to 15 years ago, a drug, a medicine has been approved and utilized in the US. It will take an average about 10 to 12 years. In this case, for Gardasil, for the HPV vaccine, to be available in China. But then fast moving forward, I just want to reflect on what Dr. Lu Shun mentioned, right? You could see that there's an emergence of numerous new drugs, different modalities, etc. I mean, he only talked about the drugs for lung cancer, but there are many, many drugs for other tumor types. And these drugs are really domestic discovered and developed in China. They are about the same speed as in the US, and some of these drugs actually fast-paced. So nowadays, if we combine the two nations, the United States and China, if we look at the drug pipeline, anti-cancer drug pipeline, about 85% of the drugs actually are in these two nations. And now if you look at the clinical trials investigating anti-cancer drugs, about 80% of the trials are being conducted in these two nations. So it is really important for these two countries, the scientists, the oncologists, the trialists, nurses, everybody to work together so that A, we could advance these drugs to our patients really quickly, and B, we don't duplicate and replicate our efforts. So the question for each panelist is, are you still optimistic and confident that we could continue this type of cross-border collaborations? And in 2026, if you could only do one thing, what is your top priority in this aspect? Who wants to take the first shot?
Big sigh. Yeah.
Give the first shot.
I think there's a lot going on right now in the U.S. and the U.S. FDA, and a lot is changing as we speak. I think the U.S. FDA, as well as other regulatory agencies, did start off this Project Orbis as a commitment to having early agreement in the design of the approval studies, the drug registration trials, so that the EMA wasn't saying one thing and the FDA saying something else, and all the different regulatory agencies wanting something slightly different. So I guess my point there is, I think it's a good idea. I think it could be better implemented, and but collaboration and participation is clearly key to get the best for our patients. And so I'll just stop there because Dr. Qiao and Dr. Su have their hands up. But I think we need to work together, and we need to study these drugs and enroll in trials together.
Thank you. I think, Christina, you're unmuted, so I'm sure you want to say something.
Well, I see. I will pass it to Dr. Qiao, who has his hand up.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. So I think this is a very good topic because personally, I have been involved the the HPV test and the SIMPrep and many diagnostic tool and in China for over 10 years. And and after 10 years later, so I have been involved in the vaccine trials, and including GSK, the and the vaccines and American vaccines and the Chinese, and Univax vaccines. So my personal field, and the first is regulatory. The regulatory is very, very tough because I just had you and point out about the timing, right? Because now I think there's better times. Many companies now they are doing the trial together, but before they don't allow we join the international and clinical trial. So every time, for example, like the GSK vaccine want to go to China, come to China, so they have to redo the clinical trial. So that takes 8 years. They start from 2008 and they get a licensure in 2016. And America and the same story. So they started their Garcell 2009 and get a licensure in 2017. So both companies and took the 8 years to get the vaccines into the market. And Innovax is a Chinese company. They started in 2012 and get licensure in 2019, only 1 year and earlier. So that's problems. But now I think they accept. I think that's a big change. The Chinese FDA accept partial and the data and come from the outside the countries like the US. So now this is why they are American vaccine and Garcell takes 8 years, but 9 valent only get 8 days, just a few days to get licensure. But now we still get the trouble and for the diagnostic and test. Well, now we have over 200 HPV based and screening. Only 5 products get into the market. The regulatory need a change. Thank you. That's my comment.
thank you. Lillian?
Yeah, I will just be brief. I think obviously regulatory is an important part to have harmonization across the globe. And I see globalization of clinical trials being a very good thing because obviously we can move much faster by having different parts of the world all working on similar questions. But I think there's certain elements that we can do better. For example, I think collecting clinical data elements in a harmonized way so that eventually when we combine data, it's a much easier task when we do so. Similarly, for example, for molecular residual disease, minimal residual disease, the collection of the time point of the ctDNA or whatever assays, if we can standardize in a way that makes sense, that would make subsequent data sharing, data combining much more seamless. I think these are ways that we can quickly have a low-hanging fruit win. And I think these are things that could be easily done if we have a US or North American, Asia Pacific kind of standardization or harmonization. That's I think, something that is quite easily done.
Great, thank you. Dr. Lu?
Yeah, I fully agree that the first is that we still need a collaboration. As you know, that cancer is no country boundary, and the leading death of all the human beings. So, but we need to pay more attention about the regulatory requirements, especially FDA requirements as well the EMA requirement. Previously, because we just joined the global study. Right now, China biotech, a lot of China biotech, as you mentioned, the new product come from China, but we really need to know and to listen, learning from the requirement actually the FDA. So the first we still needed the most important for collaboration. Second is that we know that standardization is the most important. The landscape of treatment, the control arm, and the procedures or the operation. We need to collect the data standardization. The third is that right now, I think that a lot of China biotech, the new product is already do some global study. For example, some ADC actually licensed out to the MNC, as well as some like the new models, for example, like a lot of the such as the Henry, the product they take as the new models. But also, the Innovent, they have the collaboration model with Takeda. Actually, right now, Roy Herbst and me actually leading the global study for China domestic compound Innovent IBR363. So I think that I'm quite sure actually in the near future, more and more China drug will be do some global study, and also we will still very humble to join the the United States compound to the trials in China. We really needed to think of what China for global. Actually, we have a huge patient resource, and right now we have a very high quality. Actually, my site at least 3 times we received the FDA inspection, and zero funding actually passed this inspection. I think that if China join the global study, we will improve much higher efficiency to do the clinical trial, and the drug develop will be very quickly and approved, not only in China as well as the United States. So finally, I think that I'm still looking forward to collaboration with our United States colleagues. In terms of next year, I think that we can actually organize some early phase drug developer like the symposia or the summit to discuss how to do the early phase, especially to know the different countries' regulatory requirements. We can, invite some like the FDA review or the EMA and the China CDE. We can, also join with industry discussion. That will be much helpful for the early drug development, both in United States as well as in China.
Great, thank you, Dr. Liu. Any other comments from panelists for this question?
Sure, I'll just wrap up. I agree with everything that people said. I think that if there was one thing, since your question was what one thing you could do in 2026, I think the one thing would be to establish a coordinating body or a coordinating center, perhaps a communication between AACR, ASCO, and the China Anti-Cancer Association, to really coordinate the discussions and the planning and the planning of the trials and the collection of data between the two countries.
I think great. Thank you, Dr. Fan.
Yes. So I think today's meeting is very, very important. In my feeling, that briefly, we have colleagues from the 3 organizations, US's 3 organizations. For AACR, it's mainly to do the basic research, and ASCO is clinical research, and I think Christina, you do both. So, but in CACA, we take the 3 tasks collaborated inside very closely. So it is very easily or quickly to put the new drugs into a clinical practice. So I think a clinical practice is the clinical research is very, very important for new drugs to treat the cancer, the more the quickly or more properly. So, how to promote the clinical research in China, for the collaboration with the US colleagues. So currently we have 3 ways. One is if the result from USA to get a good result, so we want to introduce into China. So we have to retest the result because different genetics, different environment then to approved by the government, we can use it. And also in the results from China. So if we want to export to introduce it to the USA, so also you need the retest or conform. So I think the best way in the future, so we should do at the same time to the multi-center collaboration between two countries. If we have some clinical research plan, so we should include some center from USA, and also USA do same things. It's better. So the CACA will try our best to do that with the three organizations. So we invite the top organization in the worldwide, including three of you to join us our international meeting at the Kunming meeting is this year, November. So our CCHIO, so we have around 1/3 of sessions international. So the next year, this November, we will have our annual meeting, the CCHIO, in another place. So we would like to, we hope to invite also the top organization in the world, including the AACR, ACS, ACR, ASCO, ACS, and also NCCN. This year we have invited the Professor Daiming to join us. So next year we have many, we don't know exactly the number, or 20 or 40 or 30, the top organizations from all over the world to join us. Also, we invite the top journals, CNS, New England, JAMA, and the British Medical Journal, Lancet, and so on, the JCO and the organ, the honors of oncology and so on, to join us and to do the two things. One is we invite your expert, to the famous professors to give us the talk in the different sessions. Especially, we can jointly organize the hosting the joint meeting. For example, CACA AACR, CACA ASCO, CACA ACS. By both the communication, we can promote our clinical research and also basic science to properly, to quickly for the clinical practice. So this is my idea. Another my ideas is, we just advocate a new slogan. That means anti-cancer, tumor control, and patient care, patient supportive care. We should transfer, because for the most prevent the cancer in China, such as lung cancer, esophageal cancer, stomach cancer, and liver cancer. Even we try our best for a long time. For the advanced cases, only the 5-year survival rate is less than 20%. That is the same situation in abroad, right? How to solve this problem? We not just focus on the anti-cancer. Of course, we should do continually and the anti-cancer by surgery, radiation, and especially the chemicals. But we should transfer to the anti-tumor by 2 ways. One is for the laser tumor or benign tumor, which is not so malignant. For example, nodules of breast, nodules of thyroid, nodules and lung cancer, of lung, they are lazy. They can keep with the people for a long time, 10 years, even the 20 years. So for this one, we cannot directly target the cancer cell. Even they have a cancer, everybody has a cancer in his spot. So we should to think something for the cancer, the tumor, and not the malignancy. Especially, we can control the tumor, not directly target the tumor cell, but they target the risk factors. For example, for the toxin for the cancer, the smoking for non-cancer, or some chemical that for the liver cancer, we can solve the risk factor. Also, for preventive cancer, that means, for example, the hepatitis B for liver cancer, HPV for cervical cancer, we can control the virus even after treatment. We also continue to control the virus by this way to control cancer, not anti-cancer. Then lastly is now almost 50% of days of cancer deaths is not directly from the cancer. It's for the damage of the normal organ by the cancer, especially the treatment for damage of a normal organ. So in CACA, we have 17 the committee for individual normal organ protection. For it. So by this also we use the Chinese traditional medicine and also acupuncture at the before and the after of the treatment, a surgical or a radiation, and also the chemical treatment before and after we use. So by this way, we can increase the 5-year survival rate. That's a survival care. So we would like to collaborate with the colleagues that by the means Chinese philosophy, Chinese way. So we by collaborating at last to let more people survival long time with higher quality. That is CACA would like to collaborate with the colleagues from USA. So thank you very much. We welcome all of you and all your colleagues from your 3 organizations to join us next November. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Fan. Professor Growley and Professor Wang.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Yan. I'm quite agree with all the professors' suggestion about the enhancing our collaboration between China and the US on the clinical trial. I have another question to Lillian Xu about another question. It's not this question. So from Lillian Xu's presentation, I noticed that in US in 2025, the new cases is 2.4 million, 2 million, and the death is 61 million. And in China, the new cases is 48 million, and the death is 26 million. So compare to the population, the number of population. In US, the population is about 350 million, and in China is 1.4 billion. So compare the number of the population, the incidence in US, I think is much higher much higher. So, Dr. Shu, could you tell me about what's the reason for the high incidence in US? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Wang. Obviously, I'm not an epidemiologist. I don't know if it is correct to compare number by number, because obviously it could be because of early cancer screening. For example, if patients have pap smears or, PSAs, they could detect a lot of early cancers because of, screening in early family practice, for example. That potentially could be one reason of detecting a lot more cancers than you would if you don't have regular screening methods in the population. But again, as I said, I'm not an epidemiologist, so I don't know if the exact numbers are comparable to each other.
So
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry. So I quite agree with Dr. Shu's idea, because the US has tried their best to find the early cancer. By this way, so maybe the incidence is higher compared to China. And also, you have a very good, you have 5 years, so survival rate is higher also compared to China. That is, you found the early cancer. In my opinion,
Yeah.
you have found the early cancer, which is not so malignancy. So that is, you have achieved the 5 years survival rate is higher. So it's quite good. But in my opinion, for the so early cancer, we should have the control the tumor by how to keep the patient survival longer, not just to do the surgery. So especially the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy, which can induce the cancer. And also we should prevent the infections, and also the event that depreciate that situation. So by that way, this is China. We are trying to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Su. Thank you.
All right. So this is great. I think, unfortunately, as I predicted, in the similar as in the past years, every panelist is very enthusiastic, and we have a lot of things to share. Coming back, if we want to do one thing in 2026, really to promote the collaboration between these two nations, if I could propose, I think in terms of understanding and harmonize the regulatory requirements appears to be one thing that, among all these organizations, we could take a shot and try to improve something. And as Dr. Lu, you proposed, right? Really, how do we really harmonize the early development? Because for drug development, phase 1, phase 2 will be the most important thing. And then in the phase 3, you figure out how to globalize it. So maybe we could using the early stage anti-cancer drug development clinical trials, and then to superimpose a component of regulatory harmonization. So this will be what we will be working with AACR, ASCO, ACS together with CACA. With that, it's 6:29 my time. I'm in San Francisco, and it's already almost 9:30 for the East Coast colleagues. So I'm going to pass along to Professor Wang to close the event after your remarks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yan. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this summit to a close, I'm filled with a profound sense of gratitude and optimism. It's been an incredible journey of learning and sharing. Where there is a bit of a reluctance to conclude our time together, I'm excited about the future paths that will emerge from today's discussions. Now, I would like to share with you the exciting news that online viewers have reached 16 million. My heartfelt appreciation goes out to all speakers, organizers, and participants. Once again, thank you all for your dedication and contributions. At last, I would like to wish everyone good health and good luck. We are looking forward to meeting you all at the next International Summit. Take care and goodbye.